Republican Congressman John Ratcliffe of Texas. He's a member of the Judiciary and Ethics Committees, and he's been briefed on the report. Congressman, if you could bear with me, I wanted to read to you a tweet from James Comey. This just in, he just released it. He said, "I respect the DOJ IG office, which is why I urge them to do this review. The conclusions are reasonable, even though I disagree with some. People of good faith can see an unprecedented situation differently. I pray no director faces it again. Thanks to IG's people for the hard work." I'll get your reaction to that tweet and your overall impressions after you were briefed on the report.
Well, first, as to Director Comey's tweet, as you will find out, the Inspector General reflects serious errors of judgment by Director Comey throughout this. And I think it's sad for the former director. You know, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Jim Comey back together again at this point in time. I think the commentary from the Inspector General as to Director Comey is particularly devastating. So to the larger question, for the last 2.5 hours, Trey Gowdy and I have been briefed on and have been studying as much of this 500-page report as we can. And I'll give you two quick takeaways that I think that he and I agree on. One, as former federal prosecutors, we are astonished and disappointed at the level of bias and animus reflected by FBI agents and department lawyers towards Donald Trump in the two highest profile investigations in recent times. The second thing, ironically, is that the biggest bombshell so far that we've seen in the Inspector General's report into the Hillary Clinton email investigation is the impact that it will have on Bob Mueller and the special counsel investigation. And I say that in reference to what Catherine Herridge put up there. Some of the text messages that we had not seen before, Dana, particularly troubling and particularly problematic for Bob Mueller and his team. The Inspector General's report really provides a legitimate basis to question the legitimacy of any conclusions against Donald Trump.
How would that then get resolved in your mind? If there are questions about the legitimacy of that investigation, what is the entity or the process to determine that?
Well, let's just look at what we've now learned from the Inspector General's report. On July 27, 2016, Peter Strzok, the person who said Donald Trump should lose $100 million to zero, who perhaps hates Donald Trump more than anyone else in America, was put in charge of the investigation into Donald Trump. And then 12 days later, when asked by Lisa Page if he was ever going to become president, said, as you'll find out, no, we will stop it. So he was the exact wrong person to be in charge of this investigation. He and 5 other people who the Inspector General found from the Clinton email investigation that had prejudice and bias against Donald Trump were put in charge for a year until July of 2017 of this investigation. And again, that it's a level of bias and animus, Dana, that is going to be hard to separate from the decision-making process. And so that's why I say, should the special counsel come up with conclusions that are anti-Donald Trump, there will be a basis and a reason, in fact, from this Inspector General report to question the legitimacy of those, I believe.
One last question for you. A lot of people, bipartisan support for the credibility of Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General at the Justice Department. After getting the briefing and reading what you can of the report, do you maintain confidence in him?
I do. I think he approached it almost an impossible task, again, Dana, when there's that level of systemic animus and bias, to separate that from the decision-making process. I think they went about it in the right way. Doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with the conclusions, all of the conclusions that they make, but the process that they used and the manner in which they went about this almost impossible task, I do have confidence in Michael Horowitz.
All right. Congressman John Ratcliffe, we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
You bet.